So first about chapter 26, liver transplantation. Okay, in that what they're telling is the first attempt at human liver transplantation by Dr. Stars. Okay, that's it. That's the MCQ. The next one is what are the indications? So indications for adult transplantations come into two categories. Okay, one is symptomatic liver failure and another one is hepatocellular carcinoma. Okay, and here is your table 26.1. What are the disease causing liver failure that may be successfully treated with the transplant? Okay, so they are divided into two types of diseases. This is non-cholestatic cirrhosis and the cholestatic cirrhosis. Okay, and among the cholestatic cirrhosis, it comes under mnemonic is PCPC. Okay, okay, primary biliary cirrhosis, primary sclerosing cholangitis, and Caroli's disease and cholestatic cyst. Okay, these are all cholestatic cirrhosis, and others are non-cholestatic cirrhosis. Primarily, the MCQ is what is the most common indication for adult liver transplantation is nowadays alcoholic. Okay, cirrhosis due to alcoholic. Okay, previously it was hepatitis C, but nowadays it was alcoholic liver disease followed by NAFLD. Okay, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease followed by hepatitis C. So this is your order: first, second, and the third. Okay, between adult. Okay. So, you see the theory, if you are coming that, and the indications are liver failure, so cholestatic, non-cholestatic liver cirrhosis, cancer, fulminant hepatic failure, metabolic diseases, biliary atresia, okay, and Buchiari syndrome, hyperalimentation induced liver diseases, large adenomas, polycystic liver diseases. Okay, and in that they are telling that the hepatitis C comes later that only because of the arrival of the antiviral. So, nowadays the most common reason for listing for liver transplantation has become alcoholic liver disease. Okay, followed by non-alcoholic steatohepatitis NASH. Okay, so first your alcoholic liver disease, is NASH, then only your hepatitis C. Okay, so first we'll come into the non-cholestatic cirrhosis. The non-cholestatic cirrhosis. So what is meant by non-cholestatic? It reflects the primary injury to the hepatocytes and not the bile duct. Okay, in spite of it, also the patient can often do present with the jaundice. So even bile duct is not involved, even though also the patient present with the jaundice. Okay. So next comes your alcoholic liver disease. The alcoholic liver disease comprises of three spectrum of diseases. One is steatohepatitis and alcoholic cirrhosis and alcoholic hepatitis. Okay. So how much? So here also another indication is chronic alcohol injection is the most common indication for liver transplantation. How much percentage? 25%. Okay. MCQ. Next to MCQ is what is the absolute threshold? What is the threshold for daily taking injection of alcohol? Okay, that is your 30 milligram, 30 grams. Sorry, 30 gram of alcohol per day seems to be the threshold. Okay, it will cause more than that. It will cause approximately liver damage in 6% of the people. Okay, so next the alcohol. How it is converted in the how the metabolism happening? It's converted to the all acetaldehyde via alcohol dehydrogenase, catalase, and cytochrome P450 is another MCQ. So alcohol dehydrogenase, catalase, and cytochrome P450. Okay. So next comes your and this first three spectrum we have seen. In that we'll see about cirrhosis. Okay, alcoholic cirrhosis first we'll see. Okay, so how it is happening? Alcohol cirrhosis. So how will you identify the alcohol cirrhosis means? So laboratory value. Okay, AST divided by ALT greater than 2. Okay, or your transaminase level relatively mild. It indicates that the liver is going towards a fibrosis, that is cirrhosis. Okay. So next comes to in that another spectrum, alcoholic hepatitis. So alcoholic hepatitis, the patient will present with a long history of alcohol plus acute inflammatory syndrome. Okay, plus bilirubin of greater than 3. Okay, so out. Usually the episodes can be self-limited only. Okay. Then comes your the next is they're telling about that period, how much period the patient should be deprived of alcohol before transplantation. So period of obesity prior to transplantation is typically 6 months. Another important MCQ. For 6 months the patient should not be drink. Okay. Patient should not drink before 6 months. Okay. And what they are telling that another the current expert view practice guidelines what they are telling. Okay, so for acute alcohol hepatitis, recommend referral for transplant if the MELD score is greater than 26. Okay, given high short-term mortality. Okay, so indirectly it indicates that MELD greater than 26, the patient should be transplanted. Okay, in case of alcoholic hepatitis. Okay, that indicates. So this is their MCQ. Finish. So in case of alcoholic, it has three spectrum: steatohepatitis, alcoholic cirrhosis, alcoholic hepatitis. Okay, the alcohol is the most common indication. So 25%. So threshold is 30 gram alcohol. So it's converted to acetaldehyde via alcohol dehydrogenase catalase cytochrome P450. Its laboratory value AST ALT ratio more than 2 and the mild elevation of liver enzymes and the transaminases. And then alcohol hepatitis have a long, having the longest of alcohol factor inflammatory syndrome. The bilirubin greater than 3, it is self-limited. Okay, and the patients should avoid drinking before 6 months. Okay, and the MELD score greater than 26 indicates your transplantation in case of alcohol hepatitis. So next comes your NASH. Okay. Okay, non-alcoholic fatty liver diseases. The non-alcoholic fatty liver diseases consists of two spectrums. Okay, this is non-alcoholic fatty liver and another one is non-alcoholic steatohepatitis. Okay. Okay, steatohepatitis. What is the risk factor? First we'll see what is the risk factor for this steatohepatitis. So first one is diabetes, central obesity, dyslipidemia, metabolic syndrome. Okay, and it is the second most common indication. Okay, for liver transplantation. Okay, so next, what will NASH biopsy? Biopsy finding of NASH. Okay, what is so it goes hepatocyte steatosis, balloon regeneration, and lobular inflammation. Lobular inflammation mostly in the zone 3. That is your MCQ. Okay, zone 3 is mostly affected in NASH. So in non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, MCQ is risk factors. Second most common indications, and third is zone 3. Okay, so hepatitis C. Hepatitis C. Next comes hepatitis C. So hepatitis C is the third most common indication. Okay. So when the patient go for a transplantation is 2% with the advanced cirrhosis. Okay, advanced cirrhosis should be considered for liver transplantation. Okay, and the patient who is the mild diseases should be treated. Okay, medical treatment may be there. Okay. Okay, and they are telling that even if you treat, even the patient who receives a sustained virological response to therapy remain at 3% risk. Okay, 3% risk of development of hepatocyte cellular cancer and disease progression. Therefore, must be forcefully followed carefully with the liver transplantation based on clinical and radiological criteria. So, even though virological response present, virological treatment given by the drugs, 3% chance to develop hepatocellular carcinoma. So that they are carefully monitored. Not that much MCQ. Then cryptogenic. What is the reason for the cryptogenic? Is now generally now thought to be advanced NASH. Okay, advanced NASH cirrhosis. It's a diagnosis of exclusion. Okay. Okay. Diagnosis, treatment, decision, everything similar to the patient with the NASH. Okay. So autoimmune diseases. Next. So next to autoimmune. It's your autoimmune condition. Autoimmune condition. Autoimmune hepatitis is the inflammatory disease of the liver. Woman is more prone affected, and it is self-limited. Okay, and leading to chronic liver disease if it affected. The etiology for the disease is poorly understood. Okay, and it is one of the exclusion, diagnosis of exclusion. So, what is the blood? What is the investigation? What are the antibodies are ICDs, ANA, ASA? Okay. Okay. Then mainly here the one important point is the initial stages of the disease fibrosis may be absent. Later only fibrosis will develop, and the transplantation is the considered for patient who develop cirrhosis. So next comes your hepatitis B. So hepatitis B, 3%, 4% you have to remember. 17, 30, and 90%. What are these percentages? So hepatitis B subclinical in 70%. Okay, and how many percent? 30% is developed jaundice, and 1% will go for hepatic failure. and 90% will progress to chronic infection. Okay. So again, pending. So 70 subclinically 70%, 30% will have jaundice, and 1% will go for hepatic fulminant hepatic failure. Okay, less than 1%. Very important. So fulminant hepatic failure less than 1 failure only. 90% will go for chronic infection. Okay. So what are that's it. So now successful treatment with the lamivudine with the hepatitis B immunoglobulin. Okay. The recent drugs. Okay. The cholestatic liver diseases. What is the cholestatic liver diseases? The triad is jaundice fever, right upper quadrant pain. Okay. So later, if the inflammation happening later, it will go to the development of cholangiocarcinoma, especially in patients with the primary sclerosing cholangitis. So first, you will see about the PBC. So PBC, the keyword is AMA, anti-mitochondrial antibodies. Okay, that is present. So in your autoimmune pancreatitis, you see your ANA and the AS anti-smooth muscle antibody. Okay, ANA ASM in autoimmune, in PBC AMA anti-mitochondrial antibody. Okay, and in PSC there are many antibodies. It will come, I will tell you later. So how the PBC will present? The PBC will present with fatigue, pruritus, and physical examination shows jaundice, xanthomata, and osteoporosis also very common. Okay, so which is a hallmark of the disease, and positive anti-microbial antibody are the hallmark of the disease. So primary sclerosing cholangitis, it affects both intrahepatic and extrahepatic biliary, commonly in men. So associated with inflammatory bowel disease. So next, blood investigations, that is very important now. Okay, it's raised to the gamma globulin, serum immunoglobulin M levels, atypical P ANCA, and human leukocyte antigen, DRW52A, 52A anti-nuclear, anti-smooth muscle, and the anti-cardiolipin, and thyrox peroxidase. So your anti-mitochondrial antibody won't come. Okay, rest of the thing, everything anti-nuclear also is coming, and anti-smooth muscle is also coming. Just a minute, 2 minutes.
Unmute yourself.
Sorry. So sorry, so all of the following antibodies are seen in the PSC except, okay, except means anti-mitochondrial antibody won't come. Okay, and the cholangiocarcinoma, it will turn to the cholangiocarcinoma in 13% of the patients, and the CA99 levels typically rise, so you have to follow serially. So congenital, what is Caroli's disease? Is the congenital disorder of the large intrahepatic ducts, and it is autosomal recessive. Okay, and associated with the polycystic renal disease. So what is Carolic syndrome? When you have to say it is Carolic syndrome means when it is associated with the fibrosis. Okay, then only you have to see the syndrome. Okay, the patient here also, the Carolic is also patient is for cholangiocarcinoma. So next comes your acute liver failure. Acute liver failure, when the is a clinical syndrome, it's a combination of hepatic encephalopathy with tricyclic ANR. Okay, am I going fast or what?
Okay, correct.
Because these are already these are already known points only. I'm just revising. Okay. It's acute liver failure. Acute liver failure. The other general terms for acute liver failure is fulminant acute hepatic necrosis, fulminant hepatic necrosis, fulminant hepatitis. Everything is a synonym for the acute liver failure. And whenever you find a patient have the encephalopathy, it is a most urgent category for the liver transplantation. Okay. So when they are telling that when how to say this based upon the periodicity, when to say it is hyperacute and acute and subacute. Okay. This is MCQ. The hyperacute means within 7 days. Within 7 days, acute means 7 to 21 days. Subacute means 21 to 21 days to 26 weeks. So this is very important part for MCQ. So I'm telling hyperacute means within 1 week. Okay, acute means 1 week to 3 week. Subacute means 3 week to 26 week. Okay, see 26 weeks. Okay. So okay. So whenever the patient is more prone
Up to
to
6
develop,
months, remember, 6 months,
What?
chronic. Up to 6 months, it is subacute.
okay. Whenever the duration of the symptom will be very shorter, the patient will be more prone to develop cerebral edema. Okay. Several theory points will be not very important. So acetaminophen among the acute failure, acetaminophen overdose is the most important cause. Okay. So next coming your common cause of acute liver failure. In that you see most common cause is acetaminophen paracetamol injection only. So here you see hepatitis B and A also comes under acute liver failure, and hepatitis C won't come. Okay, hepatitis B and C only come. So autoimmune disease, ischemia, Wilson, metabolic disease, Wilson only will come under acute liver failure. And one more is that called indeterminate. Okay, that also you have to notice. Okay, this can also is a potential MCQ. Cause of acute liver failure except. Okay, only Wilson's disease is coming. Okay, in metabolic diseases and infection diseases B and A only. Okay. So everyone knows about the King's College criteria. I won't explain. Okay, and the malignant neoplasms. Malignant neoplasms. In there, telling about the Milan criteria, that also everyone known only. Okay. Next, we'll come back to the surgical. So here in that area, they are telling about the primary treatment modality for hepatocellular carcinoma is surgical resection. Okay. Okay. In there, telling about generally 30% of the liver must be preserved to adequate synthetic function. So here they're telling about the concept of functional liver residues. Okay, FLR. Okay, FLR only they're telling. Already we know the FLR's mnemonic 20, 30, 40. So 20 for normal liver, 30 for chemotherapy liver, post chemotherapy liver, and 40 for cirrhotic liver. Okay, so here they're telling 30. Just remember. Generally, we keep it as 20, 30, 40. Here they're telling about around 30. Okay, 30 is your normal. Okay. So addition is telling that 30. At least you have to maintain FLR 30%. Okay. So when the resection is when the liver resection is contraindicated. Okay, when the liver resection is contraindicated in case of severe portal hypertension, ascites, delimitation, malnutrition, and encephalopathy are all contraindication for resection. Okay, so cholangiocarcinoma. Next, come to the cholangiocarcinoma, chemo radiation. So how to treat the cholangiocarcinoma? Chemo radiation followed by liver transplantation. Okay. So the cholangiocarcinoma still remains a controversial indication for transplantation. So in Budd-Chiari syndrome, so 5% of the patient will present with acute liver failure. Okay. So how the patient present, ascites and pain are the most common symptoms. Okay. So it is pain. Remember, Budd-Chiari is a painful. Okay. And patient 80% of the patient will be hypercoagulable. Okay. The underlying hypercoagulable other lesions may be identified in over 80% of the patients. Okay. And what about how to treat in early stages? Side-to-side portocaval shunt. You can go. It will give a good survival results. Okay, but in established cirrhosis or fibrosis, the only best treatment is liver transplantation. So in early stage, we can go for side-to-side portocaval shunt, and in established cirrhosis, fibrosis, liver transplantation is good. So next is your other where. So this is your CT feature for Budd-Chiari syndrome. Okay, and other very rare cases of liver failure that can be addressed with liver transplantation. So we can see your combined in case of TPN and hyperinflation induced liver failure, that is TPN induced. So TPN induced liver failure, okay, you can go for combined liver and intestinal transplant. So polycystic liver diseases. Also, you can go for liver transplantation. Okay, so in hepatic adenoma, polycystic liver diseases, hepatic adenoma. Okay, So when it is a large and unresectable, we can go. And the metastatic cancers. Okay, metastatic cancers also nowadays neuroendocrine tumors is very good prognosis is coming, and hemangioendothelioma. Okay, and the Wilson's disease. So the Wilson's disease. So see, you have to know something about Wilson's. Wilson's disease is the autosomal recessive. Okay, the patient is benefiting from the transplant. Wilson. So what are the contraindications? So contraindications. So they are not given nicely here. There are no, but you have to search for the contraindications. Okay. So what are simply they're telling that the advanced cardiac diseases, okay, severe valvular diseases, hypotension, okay, arrhythmias, all cardiac diseases they are telling, and the pulmonary hypertension, okay, and coronary artery diseases, okay. So these are they're telling about the cardiac diseases. Then they'll come over the respiratory conditions. In the respiratory conditions, they are telling about well-known points of pulmonary hypertension, okay, and what hepatopulmonary syndrome. In that, especially they are telling the pulmonary hypertension uncontrollable to less than 50 millimeter of mercury. Okay, if it is not controllable to less than 50 millimeter of mercury, then only it is a contraindicated. Okay. And hepatopulmonary syndrome, if PaO2 cannot be corrected in 100% oxygen, it is also contraindicated. Okay. Understood? Then your other contraindications include, okay, irreversible neurological impairment, that example encephalopathy. Okay. And they're telling that nowadays infections. So infections is not absolute contraindication nowadays. Okay. So next comes your uncontrolled sepsis or other infections. This is a relative contraindication. So what is a relative contraindication means? Your uncontrolled sepsis or other infection. Okay. So infection is not absolute contraindication, and they are telling that uncontrolled sepsis, okay, the other infections will not be cured by the transplant. It's a relative contraindication. Okay. So under other contraindication, extrahepatic cancers. So HIV is nowadays not a contraindication. Okay, we can go successful transplantation of HIV. This is a MCQ. So your MCQ will comes under here only. Okay. All of the following is a contraindications except HIV. One is HIV. And what are all of the following is absolute contraindication except the infection is the answer. So which is the relative contraindication? This is your uncontrolled sepsis. So all MCQs are here only. So other points and all you basically already know known points only. Okay. So and other social and financial support plus. So active alcohol use. So anatomic reasons. That is also considered as a contraindication. So MELD and these are the contraindications they are telling. Okay. So then the MELD already know MELD is initially diagnosed for mortality to see in the tips. Okay. So nowadays the MELD score is usually MELD sodium score. Okay. MELD sodium score. Okay. So fulminant liver. So low MELD score. Here they're telling that low MELD score less than 15 do not benefit from transplantation and is reflected in national allocation policies. So low MELD score less than 15 do not benefit from transplantation. Okay. So one more thing is there, MELD 35. I don't know, written somewhere. MELD more than 35 is an indication for transplantation. Okay. That is the term is said there. Share 35 rule. Share 35 rule. That means that whenever MELD greater than 35, the patient is indicated for liver transplantation. Okay. So MELD greater than 35. So first we will come to the donor. So what is ideal donor? Ideal liver donor is young, healthy, thin. Okay, no history of liver diseases. Okay, risk factor for infectious diseases. So yeah, they're telling old age is an independent risk factor for the mortality. Okay. So, but finally they are telling that in general, outcome with the older donors are very good. Okay. They're telling that ideal donor is young, but outcomes with the older donors are very good. Finally, they are telling this is controversial. Okay. So next come that. So whenever some that same donor having diseases in the other organs, okay, suppose I have diseases in kidney, so that is not to be contraindication to the use of the liver. Okay. Yeah, other notable exception is cancer. Cancer is also not a contraindications. So these are not general transplantation. They already know. All cancers are contraindicated if it is present within the 5-year of period. Okay, and the exceptions also are skin cancers. The skin cancers we can go for transplantations. Severe atherosclerosis affect the hepatic artery. Okay, and this is must at the time of donation. You have to careful about these things. Okay, first one is here you have to see about infection in the other organs, disease in the other organs, and cancer, severe atherosclerosis. You have to consider. Okay. So and they are telling that the patient in the donor's liver having steatosis more than 60%, then you have to steatosis or with the significant fibrosis for any reason should be used with the caution. Okay. So ongoing infection is not absolute contraindication. Okay. But suspicion of viral etiology for the donor death is an absolute contraindication. This is what I'm saying. So if a donor died because of viral etiology, okay. Okay. Suspicion of viral etiology for the donor death, our general is an absolute contraindication. Okay. But finally they are telling that hepatitis C infected donor is becoming a routine given the excess of specific antiviral therapy. Okay. Next comes your donation after circulatory determination of death, DCDD organs. Okay. DCDD organs. Just remember this term. Okay, this is donation after circulatory determination. Okay. Circulatory determination. That is an abbreviation I'm telling. So ischemic cholangiopathy, a diffuse structuring disease, can occur in these cases which require retransplantation. Okay, in DCDD and all, more prone for ischemic cholangiopathy. Okay, and it is an indication for retransplantation. Okay, so your MCQs they will cause what is the most common cause of retransplantation in case of DCDD organs. The answer is ischemic cholangiopathy. Next word, preoperative evaluation. So I come to the table. This table is very important. These are the table that tell about the MELD exceptions. Okay, just go through the MELD. This is a common indication for exception points for liver transplantation. Okay, so hepatocellular carcinoma, hepatopulmonary syndrome, portopulmonary hypertension. Okay, so maintain at less than 35 mm of mercury with the treatment. Okay, so familial amyloid, familial hyperchloroxyluria, cystic fibrosis, hilar cholangiocarcinoma, hepatic artery thrombosis occurring within 14 days. Okay, so when it is indication of transplant is less than 35 only. Okay, when portopulmonary hypertension less than 35, and here also that the diagnosis that may be appropriate for exception points. Here also they are telling that this also may be appropriate. Okay, for exception points. Okay, recurrent cholangitis in patients with severe PSC who are an antibiotic suppressive therapy, require repetitive biliary intervention, refractory ascites, refractory hepatitis, refractory varicose hemorrhage, portal hypertensive gastropathy leading to chronic blood loss, and intractable pruritus in a patient with primary biliary cirrhosis. This also they consider as exception points. Okay, from the MELD. That means that if these cases are there, you have to do liver transplantation even with the low score itself, low MELD score itself. Okay. So that is a key here. Okay. So then your preoperative evaluation. So page 620, preoperative evaluation. You are not that much MCQ. And surgical considerations. Surgical considerations. What is the incision? What is the incision you have to give? The incision is your right subclassial incision and either a midline and extension or a left subclassial extension or sometimes both. Okay. Okay. Not that much important MCQs. So first your so how to do the portal dissection? So ligating is the steps of the liver transplantation. Ligating right and left branch of the hepatic artery and transecting the bile duct in the hilum. Okay, and we have to do the ligation of the lymphatics leaves only the intact portal vein for lateral transection prior to the excision of the liver. Okay. So where is your inferior vena cava? So inferior vena cava is encircled above the renal vein. Okay, and the superior cava above the hepatic vein. Okay, in preparation to remove the entire cava. You want to remove the entire cava, you have to do like this. But nowadays they are doing piggyback technique only. Okay, without removing the vena cava, you are doing piggyback technique. Okay, leaving the recipient vena cava intact. Okay. Then MCQ point wise. So how to do the anastomosis, we know actually. Okay, order of anastomosis. Okay, I have the mnemonic SI pad. The sub-inspector's pad I have remember like that. The SI pad is superior vena cava, inferior vena cava. Okay, portal vein, hepatic artery, bile duct. These are the order of anastomosis. Okay, in case of liver. Okay, and so what you see the portal vein thrombosis. Next will the telling about in recipient with the portal vein thrombosis. So how to approach the recipient with the portal vein thrombosis after transplantation. Okay, or during not after transplantation, patient with the portal vein thrombosis, how to approach. Okay, okay. First you have to the first approach you have to open the vein with the thrombectomy. Thrombectomy catheters or thrombovenectomy you have to do. Okay, even if it is failed, this method is failed, then you have to go for second method is you have to connect bypass superior mesenteric vein nearby varices and even the left renal vein. Okay, let's say they're telling. Suppose in case of a portal vein thrombosis while doing liver transplantation. Okay, so that's it. So make the arterial inflow. Arterial inflow, what they're doing, much of the splanchnic circulation can be used as can graft from the suprarenal or infrarenal aorta. Okay, in case of difficult biliary anastomosis, you can go for Roux-en-Y technique or direct choledochoduodenostomy. Okay, these are the difficulties while we are seeing doing liver transplantation. Suppose portal vein thrombosis is there, first you have to open the vein and do thrombectomy if you have to do. Otherwise, if you are not able to do, then you have to do the bypass procedures. Then arterial inflow, for maintaining the arterial inflow, you have to use any graft if needed from the suprarenal or infrarenal aorta. Okay, if needed. Okay, and the difficult biliary anastomosis, you have to go for Roux-en-Y. Okay, and if you are finding, okay, suppose if you are finding large liver into a small recipient, keeping the large liver in a small recipient, okay, then if the right lobe is very large, it can be difficult to perform total anastomosis. If the right lobe is very large, suppose the right lobe is very large, it can be difficult to perform portal anastomosis. Similarly, if the left is too large, in the case of dorsal ventral dissection, okay, surgery is known, we can leave. Okay. Just remember these three things. Then you have to come under post-operative management. So post-operative management. So how the best way to determine total body volume status is an accurate patient weight taking into account preoperative ascites. Okay. So patient weight is the main thing. Okay. With the before ascites. Okay, that is the best way to determine the total body volume status. So when the feeding should be initiated, the feeding should be initiated very early, and the drain should be used. Okay, to diagnose the bile leaks. And what are the complications of liver transplantation? So complications of liver transplantation, yearly complications. Yearly complications. First one they are telling about post-operative hypotension. Okay, the post-operative hypotension, ongoing hemorrhage, recurring continuous blood replacement is generally an indication to return to the operating room. Okay, whenever patient having continuous blood replacement, that only is an indication for OT, but exception is there. So whenever the ongoing bleeding is because of severe coagulopathy hypothermia, we can observe. Okay, by giving a fluid replacement. Okay, factor replacement and that. So another indication for reoperation is compartmental syndrome. When the patient develops compartment syndrome, then also you have to give for reoperation. Okay, taken to the operating room. So next your complication is a primary non-function. So primary non-function is a very serious infection. Okay. Okay. What is the common causes? What are the common causes for primary non-functions? Unrecognized procurement error, use of certain types of high-risk grafts. Okay, like fatty, fibrotic, DCDD, or arterial complication after the transplantation. These are the causes for the primary non-function. Okay, and how to diagnose this primary non-function is very important MCQ. Primary non-function of liver. Okay, they can ask what are the following that true in primary non-function of liver. So laboratory how to diagnose is the lactate will remain very high. The bilirubin continue to rise and the AST will rise into 5,000 to 10,000. So all the enzymes will be raised and the lactate will be in the more area. So what is the treatment for this primary non-function is urgent retransplantation. Okay. So next comes to your arterial complications. Arterial complication. Okay. So the arterial complication not producing primary non-function is 2 to 4% of the cases. Okay. So ultrasound, CT, everything will be useful. Okay. So even arterial thrombosis is there, even if it is not associated with primary non-function, should lead to relisting for primary transplantation, retransplantation. So it's very important. Okay. Retransplantation. So hepatic artery thrombosis, you have to go for retransplantation, but in case of portal vein thrombosis, you can wait. Okay. So next comes your portal vein stenosis or portal vein thrombosis. Okay, this is in that what is the treatment? Yes. So may present with a normal liver function test or synthetic function. So when the patient develops portal hypertension, and that time only you can give intervention, and the portal stents are often useful in these situations. Okay, they are not doing any big procedures. So hepatic artery thrombosis is very dangerous. Okay, then portal vein thrombosis, hepatic artery thrombosis. Okay. So what is the most common complication? Among this, the most common complication of liver transplantation is bile leak. Okay, that will come into the next bile leak. Biliary issues are the most common complication. Okay, the post-operative period. Okay, and how much a percentage? 20%. Okay. So if you can presentation can vary from the leak or RSA bilioma. Anything it can present, and the treatment is endoscopic management and stent placement. Okay. So suppose it is still it is you can go first initial treatment. You have to go with the endoscopic management stent placement. Okay. So later that we can, if it is failed, you can go for reanastomosis with the Rowan-Weil reconstructions. Okay, next complication is rejection. So rejection, if it is mild, we can go with the steroid. If it is severe, then it go with antibody therapy. And no need for resurgeries and all. Okay, so your resurgeries, retransplantation is mainly for your post-operative hypotension when it's a patient having continuous blood transfusion. Okay, then you have to go for retransplantation. Number one thing. So compartment syndrome, retransplantation. So primary non-function, retransplantation. Arterial complication, retransplantation. Okay. Then everything is managed usually only. So recurrent hepatitis C. Okay, that also less common. And we can go for the antiviral therapy only. Okay, and the late complications. So now we'll come into we saw the early complication. Then we'll go into the late complications. Okay, the late complications. So what we are seeing is a chronic rejection. This is also an indication for retransplantation and the chronic immunosuppressant. Okay, and the cancers.
I think
No,
compartment control, they are not going for retransplantation.
not retransplantation.
But,
Just to go into the operating room.
That is normal.
Surgery you have to do. Not retransplantation. Sorry, it's still you have to take into the operating room.
Okay, and reduce that.
So main indication for retransplantation is post-operative hypotension, which is requiring continuous blood replacement. Number one. So primary non-function, arterial complication, then your late complication like chronic rejection.
Most common cause for retransplantation is primary non-functional liver. That is followed by hepatic artery thrombosis. Second cause.
Okay. First one is your primary non-function.
Followed by hepatic artery thrombosis.
Okay. Okay. Then comes to immunosuppression. So immunosuppression, hepatocytes express a low level class 1 antigen and no class 2 antigen. Your class 1 antigen is very low and the class 2 antigen never shows the class 2 antigen. So which cell recognize the graft as foreign is T cell. Okay, the T cells recognize the graft as the foreign and initiate an immune response. So T cell is the main responsible problem for here. So what are the drugs we are using is induction agents and the maintenance agents. So induction agents, okay, include anti-thymocyte, anti-globulin, is anti-T cell antibody, okay, and the basiliximab, okay, and the maintenance drug steroid, okay, steroid, mycophenolate mofetil, next page, and the calcineurin inhibitors, okay. So the tacrolimus we will see come later. So we will see all the drugs now. So first you come to the anti-thymocyte and first we have to know about the mechanism of action and the side effect of all drugs. Okay. So anti-thymocyte globulin, the mechanism of action is anti-T cell antibody. Okay. So, but the side effect is it increase the rate of infection. So, basiliximab is a IL-2 blocker. It's block IL-2 is a mechanism of action. Okay. So, the steroids is a again steroid mechanism of action is IL-2 inhibitor only. And side effect of this steroid is hypertension, fluid retention, cataract, osteoporosis, and infection. So, mycophenolate mechanism of action is inhibits the purine synthase. Okay, and the side effect is G upset. Okay, and the calcineurin inhibitors block signal to very important. So it block signal to required for T cell activation. Okay, and the side effect is hypertension, renal toxicity, and repeat abnormalities. Okay. So the mainstay of immunosuppression for liver transplantation is tacrolimus. Okay, 90% of the liver transplant recipient receiving the drug with the mycophenolate mofetil or steroids. Okay, so steroid, mycophenolate, okay, plus or minus steroids. Tacrolimus, mycophenolate, plus or minus steroid. These are the main regimen of drugs. Most of the things they are using. Okay, and so you have to know about 2%, 35%, or 10%. What is 35%? The use of induction agent which have been shown to decrease acute rejection. Okay, is 35%, and the incidence of acute rejection by 1 year post transplant is 10%. So incidence of acute rejection is 10%. The induction agent decrease acute rejection by 35%. Okay. So next comes your other liver types of liver transplantations. So first LDLE. Okay, live donor liver transplantation. So we have to take segment 2 to 3, adult segment 2 to 3 graft for the small child. Okay. And next is this later developed into the adult liver transplantation. First adult child only was there, later it developed the adult liver transplantation, the right lobe graft consisting of segment 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. So you see 5, 6, 7, 8 along with the right hepatic vein, right hepatic arteries and the right portal vein and the right hepatic duct. The same thing only. This is already known points only everything. So I no need to see again. So for child it's the same like we have to take 2, 3, 4. Okay. Then comes. So in that your noticing point is when you are taking this left lobe, okay, for child. So your left lobe will along with the 2, 3, 4. You have to take left hepatic vein, left hepatic duct, left portal vein, and left hepatic duct. But you won't take middle hepatic vein. Okay, the middle hepatic vein you won't take in either things.
For child, we won't take 4 segments. 2 and 3 alone we take. For adults, if we are transforming a left lobe, take 2, 3, 4.
Yes. So adult, if you are taking left lobe, then 2, 3, 4.
2, 3, 4. Child is 2, 3.
Child is only 2, 3 only. Yes, sir. Here the confusing point is we thought that the middle hepatic vein will take, okay, but they are not taking the middle hepatic vein, both the right also, left also in case of adult liver transplantation. According to Sebastian. Okay. So next is your donor. In donor, so they're telling that the point is the donor should be left with the residual liver volume no less than 30%. So keep the point is 30%. Okay, residual liver volume. Okay, so what are the most frequent complications in donor? So in recipient, we also after surgery, the most common complication after liver transplantation is bile related issues. But in donor, the most frequent complication is include infections. Okay. Infections. So it's around 15 to 13 to 15%. Like that they're giving, but the same side, they are giving that hernia. Hernia is having 11 to 16%. So what to choose, I don't know. So in percentage wise, hernia having the highest percentage for donor. Okay. So we can go with the hernia only because it has the highest percentage 16. Okay. So we can go with the hernia, the most frequent complications.
Hernia is a long-term complication. Infection is a short-term complication.
Okay. If they ask like that, we can
okay.
Go like that. If simply they can ask what is the most common complication seen in donor, liver donor, then we have to go with the hernia only. Recipient, then recipient, we have to go about. We have to know about the GRWR. Okay, GRWR, it should be more than 0.8. Okay. So GRWR 0.8 to 1 is generally accepted as a safe. Okay. Otherwise, if the patient will go for small pore size syndrome. Okay. Next, they are telling is they're telling this word donor status is donor age older than 50-year-old and high recipient MELD score frequently necessitate higher GRWR up to or in excess of 1. So generally accepted GRWR is 0.8 to 1, but when we need more GRWR is excess of 1 is for 3 cases. One is donor steatosis. If the donor having fatty liver, then your GRWR should be high, more than 1, and the donor age is more than 50, and the high recipient MELD score frequently necessitate GRWR up to or in excess of 1. Okay. Then comes your what is a LDL is live donor liver transplant. Okay, for 1 year post survival is 90%. Okay, nowadays most of the centers are using live donor liver transplantations only. Okay. Okay. And there is one of the complications they are telling in LDL is biliary reconstructions are particularly complication prone with the biliary stricturing occurring in nearly 30% of the recipients. If this 30% and 90%, you have to remember in case of LDL. So next comes your pediatric liver transplantation. The pediatric liver transplantation most common cause is biliary atresia. Okay. Okay. Now what is biliary atresia? You have to say biliary atresia accounts for 1/3 of the all pediatric patients. Okay, 1/3 of the all pediatric liver transplant patients. Okay, it is a congenital disease of unknown etiology. Okay, and this is a primary persistent neonatal jaundice. Having persistent neonatal jaundice. So we already know the treatment. First, you have to go with some bypass procedures like the hepatic protonectomy Kasai procedure as a initial bridge therapy. Followed by you have to go for the liver transplantation. Okay. So here they are telling that a failure to normalize bilirubin at 3 months post protonectomy is predictive of the need for salvage liver transplantation. Okay. Okay, and the growth failure and the recurrent bouts of cholangitis. Okay. So whenever the patient failed to normalize bilirubin after Kasai, okay, first thing, or growth failure happened, or recurrent bout of cholangitis happening, then you have to go for liver transplantation as a salvage procedure. Okay, that is their meaning. Okay, so nearly here that they given on concession, nearly half of the children with the biliary atresia treated with the protonectomy will need a liver transplant by 2 years. Okay, 2 years of life. Okay. What are the other diseases in which children need a surgery? Is autoimmune hepatitis and PSC. Okay. So the other things they're telling that they're telling about the metabolic diseases like enzymatic dysfunctions. Okay, enzymatic dysfunctions. Okay, within the urea cycle. Okay, like either acetyl glutamate, carboxyl phosphate synthesis, or methane transferase, adenosine deficiency. Okay, that also will be affected. Okay. So what are the metabolisms? Mainly they are mostly affected is urea cycle metabolisms. Okay. Wait a minute. Other enzyme deficiency is the urea cycle. If it is affected, the patient, the child will more prone for insidious hyperammonemia and progressive neurological injury. Okay. So maple syrup urine disease, all they are telling about that metabolic diseases only. Tyrosinemia, everything will cause neurological injury. Okay, they're not that much important MCQs. Okay, everyone knows metabolic disorder, child will go for neurological injury, growth deprivation, okay, infections. Okay. So yeah, telling the point is the synthetic function of the liver in patients with inborn errors of metabolism is normal, and the liver transplantation is performed to provide normal enzymatic function and minimize or arrest further neurological injury. Okay. So it's also not an important point. So in case of malignancy, then you will come into malignancy and liver transplantation. So especially in hepatoblastoma and hepatocellular carcinoma. Okay. So first we come to the hepatoblastoma. So hepatoblastoma is arising on the fetal or embryonic hepatocyte progenitor. The most common primary pediatric liver malignancy. So children less than 3 years of age will be tested, and a pretext classification is there. Okay. And among 10% are surgical unresectable and benefit from liver transplantation. Okay. We will provide 3 years survival for 70%. Okay. And excellent long-term survival approaching 80% after 5 years. So next comes to your OLT, orthotropic liver transplantations. Okay. Orthotropic liver transplantation, and especially in patients younger than 5 years of age, and many receive a deceased donors while whole liver allograft. Okay. So you are telling that the most pediatric recipients who undergo orthotropic liver transplantation are younger than 5 years of age, and many receive a deceased donors while deceased donor whole liver allograft. Okay. So among the pediatric this is just a fact. So one KVAL preserving technique is there. Okay, KVA preserving technique. The transplantation of the left lateral segment and the live donor grafts necessitates the utilization of a KVA preserving techniques. That is more or less look like this one piggy bag only. So what is the 5-year survival rate? Okay, so 85% for biliary atresia and 75% for hepatoblastoma. So it's an important MCQ. That's it. This and all not MCQ. So that's your one more important thing. This can ask this important MCQ. Okay, so now new technology, a machine perfusion has been introduced. Okay, to decrease the cold ischemic time. Okay, that is your machine perfusion of a liver. See this picture. Okay. Okay, what is the use of this machine is? Okay, it increase the quality of the graft. Okay, and it rehabilitate the grafts. Okay, from ongoing oxygenation to administered drugs, and it is a viability of the organs. Okay, let's see is a picture question. Machine perfusion of a liver. Your liver transplantation. Welcome to your kidney. So kidney transplantation. So the most common cause of renal disease in patient under transplant. Here is where the most common cause of renal disease in patient under transplant waiting list continuing to be hypertension, diabetes. That's a fact. So in that, everyone knows Joseph Murray is the first successful kidney transplantation. And this HOPE Act you have to know. The HOPE Act, what is that telling is, it is in the 2015, it is telling us that it allowing HIV donors to be considered for HIV recipients. Important. Okay. So Joseph Murray is successful kidney transplantation 1954. Okay. And the HOPE Act also 2015. So when it comes to the patient selection, so they're telling that those patients whose GFR falls below 20 per minute per 1.7.2 meters square should be evaluated for possible transplantation if they don't have an absolute contraindication. Okay. So remember this GFR below 20. So in the table 27.1, what they are telling is, this is important. So primary renal disease and the recurrence rate. If you are doing a transplant for these diseases, how much the recurrence rate, how much the graft loss percentage. So first you have to know which has the highest recurrence rate after doing kidney transplantation. Which primary disease have the highest recurrence rate is MPGN type 1, 65. Which you have the highest graft loss is the hemolytic uremic syndrome. And which has the lowest recurrence rate is systemic lupus, which has the lowest graft loss, systemic lupus finished. Okay. And you have to know about this FSGS also because it's given initially. So recurrence rate is around about 30-60%, 30 to 60%, and the graft loss is 40 to 50%. Okay. And the contraindications to liver transplantation. So contraindications to liver transplantation, the obsolete and the relative, very important. So obsolete, you have to give malignant diseases, infections, unreconstructible peripheral vascular diseases, CVS RS diseases, severe and IV drug abuse, and the psychosocial barrier. Okay, barriers. Okay. Just don't forget this IV drug abuse. It is absolute contraindication. You have to know about absolute contraindication, relative contraindication separately. This IV drug abuse is the absolute contraindication, and the psychosocial barrier also absolute contraindications. We thought that it is a relative contraindication. No, this is absolute contraindication. The other relative contraindications are limited life expectancy, non-adherence to medical regimen, the non-compliance with the dialysis, financial barriers, psychiatric issues, okay, and renal diseases with the high recurrence rate, okay, and obesity, morbid obesity, okay, and the frailty. So we already know the HIV patient. Nowadays they are, previously it was contraindicated, but nowadays because of the HOPE Act, we can transplant HIV positive donor to the HIV positive patients. Okay. So next we deal about the CKDs. Okay, the patient with the CKD chronic disease are 10 to 20 times more likely to have significant cardiovascular disease compared to general population. Okay, in that they're telling about cardiovascular diseases are more common in CKD patients. So cardiovascular monitoring is very much important for the renal transplantations prior to the transplantation. Further, you have to use dobutamine stress echocardiography. And a separate flow chart is given. Okay. So how to initial cardiac evaluation for the kidney transplant candidates is no need, I think. No need to read, I think. It's not useful for surgical later. Okay. And dobutamine stress cardiac echocardiography you have to do. And they are dividing these patients with CKD with cardiac vascular disease into 3 categories: low risk, okay, low risk, moderate risk, and high risk. Okay. So what are the criteria for the low risk, moderate risk, and high risk? The low risk is having those who have good functional capacity and no cardiac diseases previously identified. Okay. So moderate risk should undergo stress testing. Okay. So in moderate also, the patient not having any cardiac diseases, but they have diabetes and a prior history of heart disease. So now they don't have cardiac symptoms, but previously they have cardiac diseases and history of condition, diabetic, and 2 or more risk factors for coronary diseases. What? Smoking, strong family history, hyperlipidemia, hypercholesterolemia. So what are the high risk patients? High risk patients, those with the positive. Now they are positive with the all test, non-invasive testing, ECG, stress echo, all they are positive. That means that they are more risk. They are ongoing cardiac diseases there, and the long-standing diabetes, severe congestive cardiac failure. Okay. So when this high risk patient came, then cardiac revascularization should happen. You have to do cardiac revascularization. First, you treat the first cardiac problem before transplantation. That is a key point here. So you have to know about what is low risk, high risk, low, intermediate, low, moderate, and high risk. Like that, cardiac risk also like that. The patient is more for cerebrovascular disease. It's 10 times higher. Okay, and vascular diseases. You have to prior to transplantation, you have to know about the vascular. You have to correct the vascular disease also. So now they are telling about the donors. Here they're telling about the donor. They're telling about the donor criteria. In that, the donor criteria, nowadays new allocation system was adopted. In which the donor kidneys receive a kidneys donor profile index score. Okay. So in each donor kidneys, there is a kidney donor profile index score. Okay, that score institute score having 10 clinical parameters. Okay, that score grade. What are the 10 clinical parameters that comes to your table? 27.2. Okay, age, weight, brain death, associated death, associated with first stroke, fifth diabetes, sixth height, seventh ethnicity, creatinine level, hypertension, hepatitis, C. That's C. Okay, so it's very important. So when to consider KDPA, when the KDPA score is greater than 85%. Okay, then the graph there is a decrease in the graph survival. Okay, and increase the delayed graph function. This is the exact word from the book. Okay, so greater than 85 is a bad. Okay, should not give. Okay, just remember these things. Okay. So and this mnemonic for this KDPA is, just remember, A, B, C, D. Okay, E. Okay, A, B, C, D, E. Okay, and H3, 3H will come. Okay, H3, SW. Just remember like this. So somewhere 3H is there. Okay, triple H. Okay, hypertension, height, hepatitis C. Then comes your live donors selection, living donor selection. So, what you are thinking? Okay, suppose the living donor selection, we are taking the kidney from a relative or unrelative. Okay, non-relative. Okay, which is best? Which is best? Anyone can say which is best? Those which is one taking from relative or not relation? Which one is best? Anyone can say? Are listening? The kidney taken from the relative is good or non-related people are good?
Non-related is very good, I think, because that immunological insult will be there in relative.
Okay. But always they are telling that the 5-year survival of one unrelated kidney transplant is the same as that of the kidney transplant of a related one. It's both are same. Okay, that is a line given here. Okay, so next comes to your eligibility criteria. The eligibility criteria for a living donor selection is, okay, the donor should be, age should be 18 to 40, 70, BMI below 35, no cancer, no active infection, and the adequate renal function. Okay, and the ABO compatibility is also consideration. So what are the relative contraindications? What are the absolute contraindications? So relative contraindications is renal stone, impaired glucose tolerance, and GFR 70 to 80, and hypertension, BMI above 35. So what are the absolute contraindications? It's already listed in the box. Absolute contraindications you see. So BMI less than 30. So BMI more than 40. Okay, this side is your relative contraindications. I will write the relative contraindications. So BMI more than 35 is relative, and more than 40 is the absolute contraindications. So impaired glucose tolerance is a relative contraindications, and diabetic is the absolute contraindications. Okay, and the renal stone. Okay, renal stone is relative contraindication, and the malignant disease is absolute contraindication, and the GFR less than 70 is absolute, and the 70 to 80 is relative. Okay, and the hypertension present is relative, and the hypertension requiring multiple medication is absolute. Okay, so this side is your relative, this side is your absolute. Okay, so significant albuminuria, pelvic horseshoe kidney, significant psychiatric nephrolithiasis is the high chance of recurrence, especially cysteine and stoic, and absolute. Okay, high chance of recurrence. See multiple medications. Okay, and GFR less than 70. This is very important. Expected and fixed. And this chart is already known only, not that much important. How to assess the confirmatory testing for the brain death. Okay, here you just remember these terms. This word cerebral scintigraphy using technician 99M hexametazine. Okay, technician 99M hexametazine. Okay, so next comes your this is your relative page number 629. This comes to your relative contraindications and absolute contraindications. This both are no need to read. So this is your KDPA table 27.2 KDPA index score. KDPA score more than 85 is a bad thing. And the contraindications for kidney donation. Contraindications for kidney donation and the confirmatory testing for determination of brain death. So cerebral scintigraphy using technician 99M hexa. That's it. Okay, wait a minute. So they are telling that one act. Okay, National Organ Transplantation Act of 1984. It states that it is unlawful for any person to unknowingly acquire, receive, or otherwise transfer any human organ for a valuable consideration for using human transplantation. So National Organ Transplantation of 1984 is very important. And then what is the most common complication seen in the donor? The donor, what is the most common complication? Very important expected MCQ. This is GA. Okay, gastrointestinal complications. Okay, gastrointestinal complication. So what is the risk factor for the complication is male, being African American, or a pre-existing conditions. Okay. So the GA is the most common complication. Okay. And the laparoscopic surgical technique. The laparoscopic surgical technique, which renal is good, right or left? We are taking a donor, taking kidney from the donor, which
Left with less vein.
Yeah. Yes, retrorenal vein is longer, so left is very suitable. So here they're giving, say, just notice that in the laparoscopic nephrectomy or any procedure, they are giving 4 ports, 5 mm port in the lower quadrant, left lower quadrant, and 12 mm port complicates, and 2 5 mm port on the left costal margin, and last in the mid-axillary line. They are giving, but anyway, what they are doing there, they are giving one referential incision. After doing the dissection and all, they do a referential incision, just 3 finger width above the pelvis, and they remove the kidney. They remove the kidney via yes.
No. To take the organ out, donor organ.
Take organ from the donor. To remove the organ, that organ, they are doing dissection only via the portal laparoscopic ports, but while removing, they are giving a Pfefferstein incision. Okay, they are removing kidney via Pfefferstein incision. Understood? So next comes your open surgical technique.
They are taking adrenal or not? The adrenal they are leaving, no?
Adrenal they are leaving. So adrenal they are leaving. The adrenal gland is usually upper part of the kidney and divided from the upper part of the kidney.
Okay.
The adrenal is vein is dissected from the free surrounding tissue and transected. Adrenal they are leaving. Adrenal they won't take.
Okay.
And they will ligate or cut the ureter, gonadal vein, artery, okay, vein and the renal vein, everything with the endo-GA stapler. Okay, that is white color stapler. Okay. So remember, these are not MCQs. So next comes your open surgical technique. So open surgical technique is not important MCQ. One MCQ found that you have to apply a scan, that is Satinsky clamp is placed around the inferior vena cava for right nephrectomy or the renal vein for left nephrectomy. Okay. So you have to give a clamp. You have to give for right nephrectomy. You have to give a clamp on the IVC. Okay. For the left nephrectomy, you have to give on the renal vein. Okay. So and you have to close the stump, renal artery stump with the suture ligation, and the vein always is look like a V 5. So 50 proline. Okay. What is the postoperative care? Okay. What is the most common complication? So donor, the most common complication is GA related, but in this one, kidney transplantation for the recipient, the most common complication is urinary retention and DVS. Okay, urinary retention and DVS, and the Duke. One more Duke protocol is called Duke protocol. Duke implemented a protocol for the enhanced recovery after surgery. Okay, and the patient mostly discharged on the post-op day 1. This, if you are following this protocol, you can allow the patient to discharge the day 1. This is the Duke's enhanced donor nephrectomy protocol. So what the protocol is telling that it is having diet, analgesia, antiemetics, thromboembolic, venous thromboembolism prophylaxis, and antibiotic prophylaxis. Okay, in that you are having preoperative what you have to do, intraoperative what you have to do, postoperative what you have to do. So preoperative, only I am highlighting that MCQ points so that you have to give carbohydrate drinks 2 hours preoperatively. Okay. Okay, and you have to know about this one. Thromboembolic prophylaxis preoperatively you have to give heparin and antibiotic cefazolin. Okay, cefazolin or clindamycin you have to do. You have to give. Okay, and intraoperatively if you repeat it, if the procedure is greater than 4 hours, usual protocol only. Okay, postoperatively no need of antibiotic. See, this is everything is MCQ. Okay, and venous thromboembolism prophylaxis, heparin you are giving preoperatively, and you have to give sequential compressive devices, mechanical devices only in intraoperative and postoperatively. Okay, just remember the things. Okay, and intraoperatively what they are doing, intraoperatively for analgesics effect they are giving subfacial exparel. Okay, that's bupivacaine lysosomal suspensions they are giving. Okay, that is a looking different thing. Okay, and the fentanyl boluses they are giving. This and all normally. So that's the different thing is this one. Okay, just remember. Okay. So carbohydrate rings towards before. Intraoperative analgesia is one of the things is subfacial spiral, that is bupivacaine liposomal suspension. So the prophylaxis is appearing preoperatively and the mechanical devices after that. So antibiotic, cefazolin, and clindamycin if the allergic to cefazolin, and if repeat antibiotics greater than 4 hours, and postoperatively no antibiotics needed. Okay. So then comes your they're telling about what is a decreased donor surgical technique. So whatever seeing is a live donor, now we are seeing about the decreased donor liver transplantation. So decreased donor liver transplantation, first you have to confirm the testing, whether the patient has really died or not, brain death happened or not, by using the previous technique. I won't tell the technique, but here they're telling that one thing is there. Okay, suppose if a donor has an increased risk behavior as defined by the CDC, Center for Disease Control and Prevention for Transmission of HIV infectious hepatitis C. Okay, the intended recipient must be informed that the donor has a high risk. So what are the high risk, increased risk CDC donor? Increased risk CDC donors having 11 criteria. So to identify the patient is having high risk from the HIV, hepatitis B, hepatitis C virus. So this 11 point you have to know. Okay, 11 point the time period they are giving is all the time period they are giving is 12 months, 12 months, 12 months. It's very easy only. So men who have sex with another man, that's MSM, okay, in the 12 months. Okay, and the woman have sex with the men with the history of MSM. Okay, and the sex with the injected drugs, IV drug abusers. Okay, so patient who have IV drug abuser itself. Okay, and the patient who have this is just to look into it. No need to read during exam. Just to, now we'll just listen. Okay, and the patient who have engaged in sex in exchange for money. That is, sex is the prostitute like this thing. Okay, and who have sex with the suspected to have infections, HIV, HPV, HCV, and they have sex with the person who had already sex with the prostitute. Okay, and you see here lockup, jail, prison, and the juvenile correctional facilities more than 3 days. The patient stayed in, suppose a person stayed in jail, prison, lockup more than 3 days in the previous 1 year. Okay, and the child who is less than 1.5 years of age and born to a mother who have a high risk of HCV infection and breastfed also, then breastfed child who was mother was infected previously, and who are newly diagnosed or treated for sexually transmitted diseases, all prone for high risk CDC donors. If you take kidney from this type of donor, you have to tell the recipient, and you have to take a high risk consent from the recipient. Okay, because they are more prone for infections. That's it. And the preservation and the storage. The preservation and the storage, they're telling that delayed graft function significantly increases at 24 hours. So what is the storage solution currently used is, in the United States, Wispon. Okay, Wispon is DuPont. Okay, DuPont University of Wisconsin solution. Okay. Okay, and the custodial. Custodial is histidine, tryptophan, and ketoconazole. Okay, HTK. Okay.
So did they give technique and all?
Techniques, what techniques?
Artery to liver. Artery to which artery?
That I'm coming.
Okay, that's okay.
Actually, they didn't tell very detailedly.
Okay.
Like Bailey, what they are told in Bailey, they didn't tell. Okay, but I will tell the thing. So first vein. Vein is usually common or external iliac vein, as everyone knows. So artery. So if it is a living donor or a cardiac dead donor, okay, dead donor or living donor. If it is a living donor, you have to give with the internal iliac artery. Okay, if it is a dead donor, the Carroll patch you will take, and it is attached to the external iliac. Okay. So if it is a dead donor, external iliac artery will anastomose, and living donor is internal iliac artery. So ureter, we have two methods. Okay, is subtunnel method, and another method is there lead and triker method. Okay, like the two method is there. So here simply you have to say the ureter is spatulated and the end to side anastomosis is completed to the bladder mucosa. Okay, and one more thing is that telling that ureteral stent is placed and it's removed 4 to 6 weeks post-operatively. Okay. So I'm telling renal vein is to the common external iliac artery. If it is a living donor, internal iliac artery, and dead donor, it's on the using Carroll space, you have to attach it to the external iliac artery. Okay, and the ureter, two methods are there. Will attend to the bladder, and the ureteral stent they have to give, and it is removed 4 to 6 weeks post-operatively.
Internal iliac artery is end to end, external iliac artery is end to side. I think that one only. Okay.
The kidney allocations. The kidney allocations also they are telling. The kidney allocations they are telling estimated post-transplant survival score. Okay, based on 4 variables. Okay, one is recipient age, second is a diabetic status, third is time on dialysis, and the fourth is the number of prior solid organ transplantations. Okay, and one more prior to allocations, all deceased donor kidneys receive a KDPA score. This is based on 10 variable. Previously, we saw 10 variable in the KDPA. Okay, we have to allot it prior to the allocation. We have to allot it. Okay, in that what they're telling is the kidneys with the top 20% KDPA are free, preferentially allocated to the top 20 estimated post-transplant survival score candidates. So first you have to take the survival score for the patient. So in the top 20%, you have to receive the kidney from the top 20% KDPA scores. This is the kidney of top 20% KDPA scores. So just remember 20% KDPA preferably allocated to the top 28% estimated post-transplant survival candidates. So those kidneys with the KDPA greater than 85, the I already told KDPA greater than 85 is a bad one. Will be an opt-in system that will require recipient to sign prior consent for these kidneys. So the recipient has to carry this kidney with the high risk. Okay. So you have to take a consent from the recipient when we are giving a kidney with the KDPA score greater than 85%. Okay. So post-operative surgical complications. So post-operative surgical complications, urine output is not a reliable marker of surgical complications. Just to see. So okay.
I have a doubt. KDPA is for both deceased donor and live donor, or only for deceased donor?
You know, it's generally donor only. Generally donor.
Donor. Okay.
Generally donor, not for living live. Generally they told donor.
Okay.
Okay. And the post-operative surgical complication, most complications are manifested as a sudden drop in urine output. But urine output is not a reliable marker of surgical complication. Okay. Then you have to see the daily serum creatinine, hemoglobin level, and the other parameters like beta to microglobin. Okay. It's also helpful to detect. Okay. So hemorrhage. First complication we will see about hemorrhage. Okay. So anyone knows what is the overall common complication of renal transplantation?
For recipient.
A recipient.
I don't know actually, but the idea.
According to Bailey, it comes like a renal artery stenosis. It only comes at 23%. Okay, but they didn't mention anything particularly most common like the word. I didn't get.
You told acute retention of urine, but that is not a complication.
Yeah, that is that is the most common. Sorry, I forget. Yes, acute retention of urine and the paralytic race. That is the most common complication. Okay. So we are telling that in the hemorrhage. So hemorrhage, just to emphasize the key points only. Okay, will not go very deep. No time is there. So many patients are receiving beta blockers. So tachycardia is not a reliable sign. Just understand the facts. The other thing is very easy to read only. The risk factors for increased hemorrhage includes increase in mid-abdominal circumference, antiplatelet and anticoagulation therapies prior. Okay. Then you have to do ultrasound. If the time permits, you have to do ultrasound. Okay. So biopsy of the kidney should be performed as hyperacute rejection can lead to kidney swelling and distortion of the parenchyma as the cause of the bleed. So see, the acute rejection, which is present as the acute parenchymal disruption and the kidney hemorrhage. Hemorrhage. So even hemorrhage comes, you have to one of the main cause, not main cause, one of the cause for the hemorrhage you have to think is rejection. Okay, that they are telling. So venous thrombosis is rare and occur less than 3%. And first, the most occur in the first week post-operatively. And the causes for the venous thrombosis either thinking of the vein or external compression. Okay. So, one fact they are telling that previous dialysis patient also have a high incidence of hypercoagulable state. Okay. So, what is the treatment for this venous thrombosis? Is transplant nephrectomy. Okay, you have to do the nephrectomy is usually required. Okay. So arterial thrombosis is less than 1%. Okay, it's mainly the patient present with the cessation of urine output or the failure of the beta-2 macroglobulin level fall after transplantation. Okay, here also treatment is transplant nephrectomy. Okay, in liver transplantation, hepatic artery thrombosis only do surgery. Okay, portal vein thrombosis we do not do. Here both vein and artery both are having surgery. Okay, then arterial stenosis. Then arterial stenosis, the stenosis is 1 to 3%. It's a late complication. Stenosis is usually late complication. Okay, so what they're telling is the ultrasound is the diagnostic. Ultrasound is the diagnostic if the renal artery velocity is greater than 300 centimeter per second and the spectral broadening is seen. Okay, and the TARDIS parvus waveform are present. So three things they're telling: velocity greater than 300, spectral broadening, and the TARDIS parvus waveforms. Okay, so if a navy iliac is diseased, then balloon angioplasty should be done. Okay, what are the urological complication? Is very rare, but they're telling here the one MCQ is golden triangle. Okay, so during the procurement of the kidney, it is important to avoid injury to the periureteric tissue in the golden triangle. Okay, what is the golden triangle? Its anatomic area is defined with the renal artery, lower pole of the kidney, and ureter. Okay, so this is there. Okay, so this is the renal artery. This is the renal artery. Okay, then the triangle they are telling is defined with the renal artery. Okay, lower pole, ureter, like this maybe. Okay. Okay. This is a golden triangle. Okay, important MCQ. Then so stenosis may occur yearly in 5% of patients stenosis occur. And PK virus is a cause of late multiple stitches. Okay. So stenosis we have seen, stitcher we have seen, and obstruction of stenosis is ultrasound examination demonstrate hydronephrosis or lymphocyte obstructive ureter. So treatment in acute obstruction, you have to do nephrostomy tube, we can do. Okay. In case of a long stitcher and very proximal stitchers, we have to go for ureteropylostomy using the navy ureter. It can be urinary leak, it's 1%. You have to see first week after transplantation. So like a laboratory, the creatinine level is increased and the WBC tend to will. Okay, so lymphocyte is also a complication is occurring. So while using the ligosure, so where is the lymphocyte? How is the lymphocyte is happening is the lymphatics overlying the iliac vessels are divided. Okay, if it is divided, it will cause a lymphocyte leaking of the lymph, will cause a lymphocyte. So they will ask, like, they will give a true or false statement. They tell that Ligosur will eliminate the risk. No, Ligosur is a decrease the incidence, but it does not completely eliminate the risk. That is MCQ. Okay, and diagnosis is by ultrasound only. Okay, and the initial treatment. So treatment of the lymphocyte surgical only. Okay. The percutaneous aspiration, if we do, it is a poor results. Okay, and high recurrence rates. Okay, and among surgical laparoscopics are very successful. Okay. Comes to your infection. So up to 80% of the 80% recipient experience a UTI. Okay. So see here you find our answer. So here they're telling that infectious complications are common after transplantation in large parts because of the use of immunosuppression. Okay, then what is the answer we have to do? Is urinary retention or infectious complications? They better go for urinary retention only, because urinary retention where only they are giving the most common. Here they simply given common only. Okay.
They mentioned as a complication, no?
Yeah. Infectious complications. But in urinary retention is most common. Yeah, checked it. Urinary retention or EVS.
Okay.
Infectious complications is very common. 80% experience UTI. Okay. And other infections like CMV, Epstein-Barr virus, polyoma, PK virus. Okay. And pneumocystis jirovecii also will be happening. The treatment for pneumocystis jirovecii is trimethoprim, sulfamethoxazole, Bactrim or pentamidine. Okay. And here they're telling you that one word called outcome. In that outcome, the KDPA is 4. Okay. So, as expected, KDPA score correlated with the graft survival and declared brain death versus BCD graft showed no difference in the survival. Okay, the KDPA was shown to be an accurate predictor of graft half-life and the contribution of the donor factors to transplant outcomes. Okay, so adult kidney graft half-life by KDPA and donor type. Okay. Here they're telling that KDPA 0 to 60, KDPA 61 to 84, greater than 84. Here that if the declared brain death. Okay, so if the kidney is taken from the declared brain death and cardiac death, after cardiac death, the brain death, cardiac death. Okay, then they're telling about the graft half-life. Okay, they're telling about the graft half-life. Okay, it's KDPA greater than 85. It's still that if you're taking from the death donor, it is 100. Okay, it's 100. Actually, I don't know how to predict this one. Okay, 100 means failure or what, I don't know. Okay, the graft half-life they're given in years. Okay, anyone know this point? Anyone under this technique? Anyone is there?
Yeah.
I can't able to predict, but just remember.
No need, man. Go.
DCD,
What they are given, KDPA scores are correlated with graft survival. That is such MCQ. So more the KDPA score, less of graft survival. And also they told that declared brain dead patient and DCD patients have no difference in survival rates, almost equal. But this 27.4 table, there is conducted by one study alone, it shows some difference. Apart from nothing is there.
They're not survival also. They're in the here in the topic itself. They're doing adult kidney. So adult kidney graft have half-life bracket here is they given like KDP donor type. It means that it is years or what? I don't know. Okay, just remember KDPA greater than 85 is 100 for cardiac death. Something ask you can write like this. It's almost 100%. Percentage or something. It's 100. Okay. And you see the always the cardiac having more value, but except in case of KDPA 61 to 84, brain dead having more value 8.5. Okay.
Okay.
So that's it. So, and one more thing is there, band criteria is that when everyone knows is a revising criteria, pathological diagnosis and differentiation of types of rejection. Huh?
This is important. They ask BAN's criteria.
Yeah, band criteria. So okay, then.
Then
All
we
about pancreas I will take after some time.
yeah, it is how throat pain.
Throat pain.
Okay.